Tragic here, and welcome to my final thoughts for Mansion of Madness, The Cult of Sentinel Hill, and for Tabletop Simulator in general. So let's talk about Mansions of Madness first. Now, the Cult Mansion of Madness, I've already really given my opinions on this game, and not a lot has changed in my eye. I think some of my comments about the application and how it feels like it wasn't quite what I wanted, like it's not like they haven't taken it far enough. I think those ideas have been solidified. Basically, for example, in my game, I had a crash where my save game got corrupted, and there was nothing I could do. There's no way, because you're not allowed to save multiple save games. You can't name save games. You can't run concurrent games. There's no undo. There's a lot of problems like that, and they are exasperated by the limitations of the application, which should not be there at all. And then on top of that, you have the problems where the application is basically just a deck of cards, and it lacks the kind of personalization and integration that I was expecting, which some people think that's a good thing. You don't want the app taking over too much, and I understand that. But at the same time, when my game for Cult Sentinel Hill crashed, I had to restart a completely new game and sort of just click through everything to get to the same turn count. And the game's practically identical. I mean, a couple of different monsters turn up, and that is it. I think there were also some slightly different starting items. My point is, in a virtual system like that, there is no reason for it not to be humongously variant between games. I don't know, and that's still disappointing. And then I was really holding out hope for how the new expansion would come out, and the idea of it doesn't matter if the quests themselves are same-ish if you're getting lots of quests through buying them through the store. But the new quests have come out, and they're not that interesting. I mean, the quests are good. I haven't played them. I'm just saying, I'm sure they're good. But my point is, it's like I was expecting $5 to $10 to get like 5 quests. Instead, it's like $8 Australian, so it's like $5 US or something to get one quest. And then you buy like an expansion for like, $90 or whatever it's going to be, and it's got 2 quests. So and that was a bit disappointing. Now, Cult Sentinel Hill is actually a kind of reinterpretation of the old expansion from Edition 1. So the old expansion from Edition 1 with the forest and everything, it was one of the quests from that set. And it hasn't actually changed that much. It's a very combat-orientated quest, and I quite enjoyed it. In fact, in some ways, I enjoyed it more than I enjoyed the one trying to escape from Innsmouth, which is a much more complicated quest. Because basically, I spoke about this when I was talking about Mansion of Madness in my last thoughts video, and that is, people tend to imagine Mansion of Madness as a kind of RPG game, but it's really not. It's very, very directed. You have very specific goals. But where Mansion of Madness excels is just old school, smash and loot dungeon crawling. And that's what Cult of Sentinel Hill is. You just go from A to B, kill everything you see on the way, and at the end of the maze is a boss monster. And it works very, very well for this gaming system. In fact, I think the Mansion of Madness, how FFG like to get the one system and just make like 50 games in it. We got like Descent and Doom and, Imperial Assault and whatever. All basically the exact same game. Mansion of Madness with the app and everything would make a great sword and sorcery dungeon crawler, with a bit of story sprinkled in. Now, that's not to say I don't want to see much more complicated quests. I totally do. But at the same time, I think Cult of Sentinel Hill is a good, fun version of this game, and it's one of the games that it's out of because I've played all of the quests now at least once from the new edition, and I think that out of all the quests, Cult of Sentinel Hill is the one that I will probably be using to teach other people the game, because it's very simple, it's straightforward, you just run around, kill things, and there's lots of loot. And yeah, what I'm trying to say here is that I like the Cult of Sentinel Hill quest. I think it's actually pretty cool. We played atrociously in this game, and like all of these kind of games, like Legend of Andor or whatever, it's going to be a lot easier to play on subsequent missions because you have more of an idea. Like, for example, I know now that I have to get to the hill faster. So I've got to put the speed on. And that is something you find in a lot of Mansion of Mansion missions, is that it's very easy to get sort of lost exploring every token, and, you've really got to figure out what you're supposed to do and aim for it quickly. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I was a little disappointed with the end. Like I said in my last video, that I was unmotivated, and it got a little bit confusing for some people. I wasn't saying I was unmotivated with my channel or unmotivated with doing videos or anything. It was just that there was such a long break for that single turn because I was, had Christmas holidays and I went on, saw the family and all that kind of stuff. And I came back and I just had this one turn looming over me, and the game was already over, so it was just a pain to get out. But yeah, I think Cult of Sentinel Hill is a pretty decent quest. It's not too hard. It plays to the strengths, and it doesn't try and do the things that... Well, see, what I mean is, like, when people think of Mansion of Madness, they think of this RPG experience, or they want it to be an RPG experience. They want it to be a mystery-solving experience. They want it to be... These are the things that it was advertised as, which the game actually really isn't. So there are quests that are trying to kind of be like the advertised game, and this one's not. This one's much more simple and just run around, kill things, and in some ways that makes this quest function better. Yeah, so I don't know. I enjoy this quest. Now, as for Tabletop Simulator, I got quite a lot of aggressive, I guess is the word, comments, emailed to me or, sent through the Geek about how I was like some kind of class traitor because I was using computer games, which is very weird because I've done plenty of videos in Lord of the Rings in Lackey. No one ever complained. But for some reason, Virtual Tabletop Simulator got some kind of... It sort of rubbed people the wrong way. And the thing is, no, I am not going to be switching full-time to Tabletop Simulator, Because basically, like, I work in computers all day. And, I have all my adult life. So it's like, 5 days a week, sometimes longer if I'm, on a heavy project. Plus, I watch a lot of media, films. I'm a big film buff, and television and all that kind of stuff. So I relax by watching computer screens as well, or televisions, which is just a huge computer screen basically nowadays. But my point is, there is a philosophical difference between the ideas of board gaming and playing computer games. Something that's beyond the games themselves, that's right down to what myself as a human being, how I want to spend my time. And I don't want to spend my time sitting in front of a computer. One of the major reasons for playing board games is to get away from the computers, to get away from the apps and the phones and all that kind of stuff, and move into the tactile world of just you and your mates physically hanging out together. And that is something that the Tabletop Simulator is always going to be fighting. Like, there are some great uses for it. It's particularly good at playing solo games like Mage Knight or whatever, where you can just have a game set up, you can play some turns. I've actually found it pretty good for learning a game. Like, if I want to learn a game now, I can actually just load up the module in Tabletop Simulator, set the game up very, very quickly, and just play a few turns without having to unpack the box and, have a whole table space. And it's like because that's like a big production. So it's very good at that. And also, I've been playing a few, most of the time in Tabletop Simulator, I've actually been modding. I've actually had more fun modding games than playing. Spent way more time modding than actually playing any games. But another thing it's great for is our game groups. It's not a large game group, but we get 4 to 6 people every week, and what this means is that we never get to play 2-player games. Things like Star Wars Rebellion, Sejikara, Hannibal, games that I love, or even 2-player games like Call of Cthulhu, like the card games that I was complaining about before. I seem to be doing a lot of complaining recently. Whatever, the point is that it's pretty good for actually playing 2-player games. Like I've been playing a bit of Star Wars Rebellion, and the game plays well. It plays serviceably well because you are playing the game, you've got voice comms and all that kind of stuff. But the truth is, it is so far behind playing with the physical components in face-to-face that it's not really at risk. It's not like I will never move to all virtual tabletop. You don't have to worry about that. There's definitely going to be board games on the channel all the time. I mean, that is the focus of this channel, and not because it's about the channel. It's my focus as a person, because I want to get away from the computer, basically. But that being said, there are definitely going to be more games on the channel in Tabletop Simulator. Now, definitely not all the time, and not a lot of games. It's just that what I think might be an opportunity here is to be able to run concurrent games. Like, for example, when I did Mage Knight or when I did Android Netrunner, these were quite long games. It took me like ages to do. And when it's set up on the table, there's nothing else you can do. You've got to just keep slugging away turn after turn after turn. And for me, it can actually get pretty repetitive sometimes doing this. I actually felt that with it. It's got nothing to do with a board game or Tabletop Simulator, because I had the same problem with Cult of Sentinel Hill. I came back from holidays. I had a single couple of 1 or 2 turns, but I'd already well lost the game. But my point is, filming the game and then editing the game can actually usually takes longer than it would normally take to just play the entire game for most games. We're talking like 4 or 5 hours to do a single turn. Now, I do it because I enjoy doing it. I love interacting with people on the channel. That's not the issue. What I'm trying to say here is that the virtual tabletop might allow me to play concurrent games, so I could take a break. So I could play like a really long, deep game with the physical components, and then I could play the occasional quick, short little game in a virtual app, just to break up, not only the content for you guys, but also just, to give me a break. Or the other way around, I could play short, cute little games with the physical components and play great, big, long, complicated games inside Tabletop Simulator and utilize the save load function and stuff. So we'll see how that goes. My point here basically is that I understand what people are saying about, this is a board game channel, why are you using virtual simulators and all that kind of stuff. But I'm probably still going to do more games inside Tabletop Simulator, especially because I'm addicted to modding in it for some reason. I don't know why, but I can't stop modding. I'm basically slowly converting my entire collection for some reason. And most of the games I don't even play. Whatever. My point is, I'm going to be doing more games in Tabletop Simulator, but they're not going to be a focus of the channel. Most people won't notice much of a difference. We're talking about the same kind of level of when I had Lord of the Rings, but I was about, if you actually go through my Lord of the Rings videos, about a third of them are actually in Lackey. No one gave 2 shits about that, but apparently Virtual Simulator really freaked people out. But the thing is, the Virtual Simulator can never get past the fact that it's on the computer. People complain. I complain about app integration as a kind of almost a step in the wrong direction because it's a step closer to something which, into using computers, using apps and stuff. And that step towards that is actually the wrong direction. It's actually the exact opposite of why I play board games in the first place. And obviously, Virtual Tabletop Simulator is all in the computer. So it's never going to replace it. So don't have to worry about that. So yeah, that's my ramblings for that, for this video. Basically, yeah, so I'm going to be doing some more stuff. Also, just to clarify, a while ago I did a video, a box opening, and I spoke about how I was most likely going to be skipping on LCGs, but people kind of got a little bit confused. when I was saying I wanted to quit buying endless expansions, I wasn't just talking about LCGs. I was talking about all games that are endless expansions. Like, I don't collect it, but Imperial Assault is an example of that. Descent's an example of that. Myth is an example of that. Just these games that are just expansion after expansion after expansion after expansion, just constantly releasing content, sometimes to the detriment of the gameplay. I want to try and focus on more traditional board games at the moment is what I'm looking at. Games that you buy, you put them on your shelf, and they're complete units. Not only from a monetary standpoint, but also because I'm a collector, and I am a collector. I had to admit this to myself about a year ago. I find it very hard not to buy just every single thing that has the brand name on it. You know what I mean? So like I bought Myth a while ago, and I just keep buying all these like Kickstarters. I just get Myth. And 90% of it I've never used, and that was the same with the LCGs. Like, I would just buy the packs and they would just go straight onto my shelf. Not because the games aren't good, but because us as a game group has kind of moved on to new games. But I was kind of locked in this buying the expansions. And I know that's on me. That's not their fault. I mean, I'm the one buying it. But at the same time, I don't know. I'm just going to try and avoid games that I feel have these endless money sinks for now. I mean, there's obviously going to be some that I'm going to always buy into. For example, I'm pretty sure I'm going to buy the new Mansion of Madness box. I'm probably going to buy Eldritch Horror. I've kickstarted this game called Shadows of Brimstone, like this samurai version of Shadows of Brimstone. So I'm pretty sure I'm gonna, be stuck in that for a while. So yeah, it's not like a hard and fast rule, but people were focusing a lot on the LCGs, but it was more upon, I was really trying to talk about the philosophy of my game purchasing in the future. Anyway, so I seem to be rambling well into 20-30 minutes now, so I've got to stop. I call myself Tragic Blathering for a reason. But, okay, so to sum up, Cult Set in a Hill, I think, is a very, very good quest. It's a simpler quest. It lacks some of the thematic experience that the other quests have. But in some ways, I think it actually complements the game system very well, and it's good for beginners. I think it's a good quest. And I think out of all the quests that I've played, and I've played every single quest released except for the DLC quest and the new box expansion, I think it's one of my favorites for sure. As for Virtual Tabletop Simulator, I don't know why I keep saying Virtual Tabletop Simulator. As for Tabletop Simulator, no, it's not going to replace my channel. I'm not going to just continually play in there. But yes, I am going to still use it now and then because I enjoy playing in it and I enjoy modding in it, and I want to show my mods off. So you'll be seeing more content in Tabletop Simulator, but that does not mean that there's not going to be other content coming. And the truth is that the physical board games, like the old school way of playing board games, is not even remotely in danger by this application. I mean, it is so far removed from the normal board game experience. It's almost in a different planet. It's like, I don't really see them as in competition. Like some people say, oh, virtual simulators, they're removing players from the board game community. And I don't think that's true, because I honestly think that it's because it's not, the difference between computer games and board games is actually a philosophical separation, not a mechanical one, Anyway, so yeah, I will see you guys